The world is filled with way too much chaos and way too much strife and difficulty. And there are so many people that I speak with that are struggling to find their calm. They're struggling to have clarity about what in the world the next steps are for them. And I'm at a point where I felt like I couldn't sit by any longer without doing my part to try to help. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 0 of the Calm and Clarity Conversations podcast. We are taking steps forward to have real conversations about challenging topics, but also to explore with a pretty wide variety of people. We'll get into that in a few minutes about how it is that they have learned to find calm. What does calm look like for them? What does it feel like? How have they found clarity in their lives? What are the strategies they've used in situations, both difficult and easy? And what advice would they have? I believe that we learn from a great deal of viewpoints. And so our guests going forward will be from all over the world. My goal is within the first 25 episodes to have 10 different countries and 5 continents represented and a strong gender split because I believe we can learn from each other. I believe that a different set of experiences will make evident a clear set of principles. You see, in my own experience, the principles that are true everywhere lead to the practicals that are true just for you. And so my hope is that as we share and we get into things over these next weeks and months, that you will be able to get those light bulb moments, that you'll connect with people that you go, wow, they're incredible. They're amazing. Holy mackerel. I want to know them and I want to know more about them. But also that you'll feel that little tingle that says, I needed to hear that. I didn't know I needed to hear that, but I needed to hear that this week. I needed to hear that right now where I am. And that's a lot of why we're putting together this podcast. Now, many of you who listen to this may have encountered me somewhere else. For those of you who don't, you may be wondering, who the heck is this guy? My name is Dan McPherson. And I, from a career standpoint, identify as a calm and clarity coach. Many would refer to me as a business and personal development coach, or a life coach or a consultant. I work with clients all over the world to help them to specifically to achieve their dreams, but in doing that, often to learn about themselves and to learn how that knowledge and that leveling up, if you will allow them to escalate and grow their businesses. And that is a big part of what I spend my life doing from a career standpoint. I also had a 30-year corporate career before that. I'm sure it'll come up in bits and pieces throughout the episode, and you're welcome to go search across the internet to find details of that. However, more importantly, as a human, I identify as someone who cares. When I think of myself, when I am sitting by myself and I think, who am I? I don't think, oh, I'm a coach. Oh, I am this as a career piece. I think I want to be a person who is known as someone who cares. I believe my number one core value is that people matter most and relationships are everything. And I believe that when we get into and share our stories, the real pieces of our lives, that is the most meaningful part of what we can do, that leads to those principles and practicals we talked about earlier. I believe that our stories are the most powerful and the most unique things that we can share. I believe also that when we share the good and the bad, we can help people. But when we share the ugly, when we get pretty raw at times, that's when we transform lives. And it's a big part of what I'm all about. So you can know that if you listen to these episodes, you're going to hear some real things. You're going to get some deep parts of our story. That doesn't mean that everything's going to be heavy. In fact, probably only a few moments of each episode might be. This isn't designed to be that super life story type of podcast. We did that earlier. If you want to find a little more about me and many of our guests, check out the Dreams Are Real podcast. We did that for several years and we did tell very powerful, deep stories there. When I think about calm and clarity, I think about this a lot because the fundamental core, the backbone, if you will, of the things that I train and work with my clients on and that I work on in my own life is an understanding that calm, clarity, and focus in that order is the only path be in life or in business. And so, with that being the case, when I do think about this, I look for solutions. I look for to answer the questions of how can we become more calm? How can we have a clearer picture of what we should do next? How can we focus in a little bit better? And where I came from in terms of determining this show is the understanding that calm comes first. We've got to talk about that. This is the one that everybody wants to skip over. And especially in this day and age where there's so much chaos around us, where there's so much frustration and anxiety and the information overload and all those pieces, that finding calm is really hard and it can prove challenging in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. So I want to provide those answers and support and thought to you. And the second is when you think about clarity, once I am calm, yes, it's easier to become clear, but what in the world does clarity mean? And in my mind, it clarity means I have an idea of what I need to do next. And I don't have a super disruption or concern about that. I look and I go, yes, this is the next step. It's not overwhelming. One of the principles that you'll hear me talk about over time is that vague is overwhelming and specific is achievable. So in my mind, clarity is is an increased version of calm. It's about getting out of overwhelm so that I can have that clarity and that specificity to be able to go forward. And I know that our guests as they share will get into those pieces as well. So if there are 3 things that I would tell you that it is likely you will get from listening to our conversations over these next weeks, and I challenge you to do so, and I challenge you to ask yourself the same questions that I ask the guests and think, "How does this work in my life?" What whether it be questions around, "What do you think about calm?" or "How do you get calmer? What's a situation where it was difficult for you to find it?" Or whether it be about the clarity and how do you find clarity in the world? Where do you struggle with that? Or whether it be something more simple but powerful, such as if you look back 20 years from now, what legacy would you like to leave? If you ask those questions and you contribute to the conversation, we're doing this live for a reason. I would challenge you that you will likely discover 3 things. One, that what I was sharing before about calm, clarity, and focus being the only path to true momentum, you will hear that repeated in very different words and very different stories from very different perspectives over and over and over. That you will see that truth come to light, and you might begin to see the threads of that show up in your own world as well, in your own life as well. Secondly, I sincerely hope, especially if you have encountered struggles or maybe you're dealing with them now, that you will find yourself recognizing this deeper truth that there is always light through the darkness, that no matter how difficult things are, no matter how much of a struggle things may be, that there is always light on the other side of that darkness. There is reason for hope, and hope is foundational even when it feels incredibly difficult to reach or to grab a little bit of. And I suspect as we speak that you will feel that light of hope as you connect with people's stories who are very similar to your own. And the third of the biggest pieces that I suspect you will take from this is the power of you and your story. We'll share other people's stories and what they've gone through and their advice and what they suggest. But my encouragement, my hope, my expectation even is that you will see the space where that is able to be reflected in your own life, in your own experience, and to be able to then take something meaningful from our time together. I am very cognizant of the importance of valuing people's time. And I want to ask you to join us. I want to ask you to listen to these conversations, but to do so in the hope and expectation that when you will leave, you will leave with more than you got here with, that you will leave with an opportunity to pour a little bit of fuel on the fire of your life in a good and positive way, that you will leave with the opportunity to extend and move forward in a way that is at least a little bit better than you would before you got here. That's my hope. And to accomplish all of these goals, we need you. We need your feedback. We need your comments. We need your questions. We need your engagement. And we need you to really let us know what speaks to you, what's most important to you, what will help you. When it comes to calm and clarity, what do you want to know about? What are you struggling with? Where are you at? And that is, I suppose, the last notable challenge I will leave you with is as you prepare to listen to our conversations together, as maybe eventually you end up having this conversation and jumping up here. Who are the guests that you would like to see? Who are the people that you want to hear from? What do you want to know? And how can we help you? Let this be a meaningful time as we join together because I do believe that we are always stronger as a team than we are as individuals. And that is because of you and because of the connection and strength that you bring to us. Now, I look forward to seeing you all next week for episode 1, where our guest is going to be my good longtime friend and incredible, phenomenal human being, Leanne Lila Kaba. Leanne has been a CEO from a young age. She's spoken in a dozen countries. She teaches people around the world about both AI and about executive and virtual assistants. And she is a ball of positive energy and light for change. And I am confident that if you take a little bit to listen to some of the things she has to say, you're going to leave so much better for it. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Until then, have a fantastic day. Be well, breathe well, and always continue to shine brightly.